Good morning, Predicted Trades family. I want to do a quick little audio visual check, make sure you guys can hear me, see my screen. And if you can, maybe just respond in the chat on YouTube to let me know that we're all good visually. It looks good on my end. And we'll get started in just a second. Alright, it looks like folks can hear me and see my screen. So let's go ahead and start digging into prep. So, ES, we had our sell-off, our consolidation a couple of weeks ago, had a nice rally back last week, ended up topping out Wednesday, and we've been in a little fade ever since. Had a nice pop Friday. Yesterday was a nice inside day. So, just like we covered in Sunday prep, we have the highs from 2 weeks ago, which are now kind of our support, a zone around 44.35 to 44.55. Want to see us hold that zone and push off of it to get through this downtrend line from the highs of last week. So we got the highs of 2 weeks ago as our support, the high of last week, creating a trend line that has been keeping us down. I would think today we should kind of get a direction set, whether it be up or down. We do have the daily 21, which is this white stair-step line above at the top of all of these squeeze clouds. You can see on ES we have squeezes on the 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour time frames. So that's what all these stacks are. All these clouds are stacked on each other. And at the top cloud, we've got the daily 21. At the bottom cloud, we have the daily 200, which is this yellow line. So right now we are stuck between the 200 and the 21. All of liquidity is right here, except for the daily 50, which is up above, as our target that we're aiming for once we get above last week's high. So let's see what we get today. Zoom in just a little. We do have a nice flat Ichimoku, the top of which is aligning with that 44.89 key level that we've been calling out. So would like to see us hold these squeeze bottoms. We're already starting to bounce a little bit pre-market. I could see us maybe starting to go down and tap this zone to find support to get through this 30-minute cloud and back above that 44.89 to try and get back to the daily mean, which is now stepped down a little closer to yesterday's high. So ultimately that's what I'm looking at on ES. These key levels below, key levels above, psychological level of 4,500 that has definitely been part of the resistance with this trend line. Before we move too much further along, let's just take a quick look at some news, some earnings, that kind of stuff, because I always forget to jump into that. So over in our Discord server, in our news channel, we have news that gets fed in all hours of the night. Not a ton of news going around. Canada wants this truckers convoy protest to stop. the biggest news, obviously, if you did not hear, Nvidia is abandoning the acquisition of the ARM company, the whole ARM deal that we've been dealing with for like a year. Nvidia has finally decided to back out of that acquisition. They will have to pay a severance fee of like $1 billion, but they won't be spending $40 billion to acquire ARM. My personal take on it, the ARM acquisition was supposed to provide Nvidia a leg up on competition. Now that that is falling through, one, they're not going to be spending that much money, right now at least. They will most likely start looking around for other acquisitions that can help give them that same competitive edge. But can you guys still hear me? Sorry, I got a little blip saying that my connection might have cut out. Oh, okay, it's just giving me a little delay. I'll just keep pressing on. So ultimately, Nvidia might start looking around for other companies to acquire to regain that edge, or they might start investing in their own infrastructure to, acquire the equipment that they need that they may have acquired or, inherited once they acquired the ARM deal. So a couple of scenarios, I could see Nvidia investing in themselves, or I could see Nvidia looking for other acquisitions, but for the time being, they're not going to be spending a ton of money, so we might actually see some investors come back into Nvidia. I know it says that they're down 1.3 with that deal falling through, but the market is down a little bit, so it's probably just following the market. So overall, that's kind of the big news blip on Nvidia to keep an eye on. There was another news blip about Facebook is threatening to leave Europe if the regulators don't chill. So we'll see if that threat was just to try to spur some action in their favor, or if it actually comes to fruition. Facebook right now is definitely down, and I wouldn't be rushing in to play it to the upside. It slipped even further yesterday, and it's getting closer to 200 now. So, and it looks like Facebook got downgraded today. Always worth going and checking the upgrades, downgrades, point changes through Alt. Oh, Google says rolling out VPN to iOS devices. Let's see if that can give Google a little bit of a bump. I could see that helping their business. Peloton is down again, pre-market. One of those buy the hype, sell the news. We've seen news blips that Peloton, or there's been talks of Amazon or Nike or a couple of companies potentially acquiring Peloton. Frankly, I would leave that one alone as well. Pfizer earnings are out, worth checking out. Snap announces proposed private offering. They are down a little bit pre-market because of that. Yep, see, shares down 3% after company announces proposed note offering. There's that $1.36 billion that Nvidia will have to pay to the ARM deal now that they're walking away from it. And it looks like that'll come in the first quarter of fiscal year 23, so not a problem until next year, really. And yeah, that's pretty much it for news. I'll double check the earnings for this week. We did already cover it in Sunday Prep, and if you didn't see Sunday Prep, I definitely suggest going to check that out. Looks like we had our Pfizer before the bell. Oh, Harley Davidson, don't want to miss that. I joke. We have Peloton after the bell. We have Chipotle after the bell. That could be very interesting. And then tomorrow we got Disney Twilio after the bell. And then on Thursday, the ones that I'll have most interest on are Twitter, Cloudflare, Datadog, a lot of ads and cloud, technology companies are going to be reporting Thursday, so we could see some interesting plays around that. Now let's get back to the market. And I'm going to try to breeze through some names pretty quick here so that we can wrap this up in under 30 minutes. NQ, kind of the same story. Did get all the way back to the daily mean, the 21, the white line. Now we've been on a fade. We are a little bit below last week's high already. NQ has been leading to the downside and to the upside. So we'll see if NQ is trying to give us our first signs that we are going to slip below the highs from a couple of weeks ago and start heading back into that consolidation. Or if we can hold these squeeze bottoms, some of these key levels, 14,445 and 14,000, big psychological level, that we want to see that area hold, these squeezes hold, and start working our way back up and through. Always good to kind of draw that trend line to know where we have to get through, where the sellers are waiting. So I'll add that in real quick. Connect it to that. And there you go. If we start to arrive at the top of our 30-minute Ichimoku, which has a nice flat top around this key 14,668, 14,658. The daily 8 MA, the blue line, is also right there with that trend line. So do I think we can go test all of that today? Absolutely. Just need to find our support at these squeeze bottoms, get back above that 14,516, and truck on up to test this trend line, the daily 8, this 30-minute Ichimoku top. All giving us a lot of magnets to work with the daily 21 and the daily 200 right up here between 14,900 and 15,000. So big old magnet up above. We do have POC right around this 1469. So yeah, POC is up above. Let's see if we can find our support and magnet on up there. The ruddy. Trying to live life back above 2,000 and in a nice upward trend. Whereas ES and NQ are still in that fade trend. So at least small caps starting to get a little bit of love and trying to head back up to the upside. And the highs from last week. And the daily 21, which it didn't quite tap last week, but now it's come down below that high, so we can get back to the daily 21 before we get to last week's high on the ruddy. Let's see if this uptrend can continue. Actually, I'm going to reconnect this to right in here. There we go. So let's see if we can hold this uptrend, stay above this 30-minute Ichimoku, and the daily 15, which now aligns with that. I love it when things align on an indicator, all these indicators that we use. So yeah, want to see us stay above psychological 2,000, and this Ichimoku and daily 15 overlap. We can slip down there and tap and test, but ultimately want to see us stay above this 2,000 and keep this uptrend going. If it starts to roll back over, we'll probably start seeing some of the other indices roll over and break their support. YM. At least yesterday, YM was a bit of a lagger, and as NQ and ES raced up and tapped their squeeze top early. YM kept slipping. Would make it up and slip, so YM was definitely lagging yesterday. Let's see if it can help push and all indexes move together. We do kind of have a nice flat line of support here around this 34,930, which aligns well with the daily 200 right now. So let's see if we can stay above the daily 200 and the squeeze bottoms that are the smaller time frames, which are up here around that 34,900. If we start to slip that, we could fall in these squeeze bottoms all the way down to the daily 15, which is down in this zone. That will definitely mark ES losing its support and NQ and most likely slipping pretty hard. So want to see YM hold up here at this 34,900 and start making its way back up to these squeeze tops. We may not even need to get down here to keep on trucking. It looks like we're in a good little bounce so far, so starting to get into that small 30-minute Ichimoku. Would love for it to stay here, push right up to the mean, and keep on trucking. We do have a downtrend from the highs you could connect and make. Kind of looks like it's already being taken care of by our trend tool. So got a nice little wedge on YM today. Keep an eye on that. Could just bounce around and have another inside day. Apple. Always going to be a great gauge for tech. Apple is pretty bullish. It had a good run up. It's back above the daily 21, the daily 50. Now it's just pulling back for support and keeps bouncing at the zone created between the 21 and the 50. So I want to see it keep holding that zone. Now that zone has caught up to price action and is right underneath these two key levels of 171, 172 and some change. That has provided support this week. Every time we get below it, we bounce right back, or once we tap it, we're bouncing. Been holding that zone pretty well, and now liquidity has come up to meet it. Liquidity being the daily 21, the daily 50. Ooh, even the daily 8 is mixed in there. So, want to see Apple stay above the daily 21, even if it has to go down and test the squeeze bottom. Ultimately holding that 170 to start making the track to last week's highs and all-time highs. If we start to give out that 170, we've got the daily 15 down at 167. We have our lows from last week way down at 157. So if 167 gives out, it could start to accelerate fast. AMD. Chips were showing pretty good relative strength yesterday. As you can see, they got up to their squeeze top, only fell about halfway, squeeze top again, and right back to around open. Whereas we saw other names come all the way down and hit their squeeze cloud, and then come all the way back down again. So good relative strength in chips overall. AMD does not have the ARMS deal to deal with, so they could, keep on moving, but it can move in sympathy with Nvidia. So we'll see if chips continue to get love and have relative strength. Right now it is grinding up the bottom of this 30-minute Ichimoku on AMD. So let's see if it can push on through and back up, or if this Ichimoku and this overnight high at 124 are going to force us back down to fall out of this Ichimoku and down to the bottom of the squeeze. So got a nice range today to play with, nice key level in the middle. See how we deal with this Ichimoku. Amazon. Showed pretty good strength yesterday, like it wanted to move, then faded back with the rest of the market. Basically going to open right at around the same spot, maybe a hair lower, and in the middle of this 30-minute Ichimoku. So we had good earnings, blasted through the 30-minute, now we are fading back and tapping it. So ultimately on Amazon, if it's going to continue looking strong, I want to see it bounce out of this 30-minute Ichimoku and start pressing back up towards yesterday's high. We do have a squeeze in place, 1 hour, 2 hour, as you can see from our matrix. So if Amazon starts to give out this 31.45 and 31.30, it could slip back to the lows from Friday and this psychological 3100, 3050. The daily 21 is sitting right down near that 3050. So if we do give out this 30-minute Ichimoku, which is sometimes what we use to gauge a trend, and if we're going to continue, we should see a bullish trend bounce at a 30-minute Ichimoku. If it goes through and rejects, it can be a change in trend and start heading down. So something to definitely keep an eye out there on Amazon. Facebook, as I said, down on earnings and continuing to head down. Really not in play until you can draw a trend line from these highs, till it starts to break over that trend line and get back above 30-minute Ichimoku. Then we can start looking towards upside plays on Facebook. But it's got a lot of negative news going on right now. I even saw something that one of the board of directors, or one of the board members, stepped down yesterday. So, I don't know, they're losing some faith over there. Google. I shared some very interesting trades yesterday on Google. Again, it had a trend line that we were running into pre-market, and at open, straight dump, retest, and keep going. The 2750s hit their beast of about $7, ran up to about $30 at the lows on the put, the 2750 put. Meanwhile, those 3000s up here opened the day at 7 and fell to about $2 and stayed there. So it was very interesting the way they're propping those up. We still have to get through this trend line and the 30-minute Ichimoku to start getting back up to this post-earnings high, which I believe was a new all-time high, but an after-hours one. So, yep, definitely have some resistance to get through on Google. Not any squeezes intact really anymore. We do have the daily 21 that we have finally gotten back to after that earnings pop. The 8 and the 21 are right here to provide some support. If we fall through that, we've got the 15 and the 200 down here at 2700. So, want to see it hold here and get through the trend line to start playing those 3000s and 3100s, those calls, a little heavier. And then if we start to give out the 21, it could be a pretty quick ride to 2700 and basically back to where we were before earnings. Let's keep trucking. Moderna. Still not loving this name. Just keeps getting beat up. Not going to spend a lot of time on this one. Microsoft had good earnings. Looked good on Friday. Kind of fell back yesterday. But overall, it's holding this 300 real well. So we do have a daily squeeze on Microsoft that sets a little bit of a wider range for us to keep an eye on, and the daily 50 is right up there at 320 at the top of this daily squeeze. So would like to see Microsoft hold this 300 and then start playing these 305s, 310s, 315s this week and next week in a bid to get back above last week's high and back to this 320. But, you know, Microsoft and Apple, very big and weighted in tech, going to be good gauges So want to see Apple stay above 170, want to see Microsoft stay above 300 to start playing the upside a little heavier. Otherwise, excuse me. Otherwise, we give out 170 on Apple and 300 on Microsoft. We could start seeing more selling. Netflix. Had a good recovery after going down on earnings. Made it almost back to the 21, fading with the market. Hasn't quite found its leg yet. Was pretty weak yesterday in this 30-minute Ichimoku, fell back out of it, kind of confirming the downtrend, but had a good recovery halfway through the day, trying to get back up to it. So today, we kind of got an ugly Ichimoku, but it's nice and thin. So can we hold this 2-hour squeeze bottom right at around 395, 393, the low from yesterday? Can we hold that squeeze bottom, start to get back above 400 through this Ichimoku to 410, squeeze top, daily 8, and maybe start to fire this 2-hour squeeze up to get back to the daily 21, which is coming in on 450. Nvidia showed some good strength yesterday, total uptrend. News on the ARMS deal and the market, small gap down. So we'll see if they want to start loading up Nvidia now that they're not going to be spending $40 billion to buy another company, or if they just kind of keep it in this squeeze. We're in the 30-minute Ichimoku. Let's see if we can break out of that. Definitely going to be watching the 250s, 255s, 260s to get back up to this trend line. And if we can't get through the 30-minute Ichimoku, going to be watching these 235s and 240s. Let's see, Roku. It's saying that it's had a 30-minute and 1-hour fire. I'm assuming that's kind of to the downside, which means those squeezes are starting to open up, but we have this nice big Ichimoku with this flat support at 153. So want to see Roku hold this 153. If Roku can hold this 153, it can start to make a fight back to 160. And where these squeeze tops were at 162, and yesterday's high 163. If Roku gives out this 153, we could start to revisit the lows from Friday. Back down at this 145. Let's see. Snow covered on Sunday night to say that with all of the ads and cloud computing that's reporting earnings this week, we could see some sympathy plays in Snow. Snow had a very strong Friday and then had a gap and kind of go. Although it did ultimately come back to where it opened, it did not try to fill the gap. So we do have a gap now on Snow, which could kind of provide some support. We're back above we're back above the high from last week. So that can also now provide support. And we're even above the 200. So we did talk about coming into this week, watching the 290s, 300s, 310s. It's already up there. So definitely going to still keep an eye on the 300s, 305s, 310s on a bid for Snow to get back to the daily 50 at 316, which aligns with this daily squeeze cloud top. And if it gives out this support, we've got the daily 21, Ichimoku's daily 200 down here for potential targets to the downside, 270, 275, 280. Keep an eye on Snow there. Tesla. Definitely saw some interesting trades yesterday on Tesla. those 1050 calls, hit beast at open. I think they went 3 or 4x from there. And when they came back, they held beast really well, even though Tesla did go lower. So, going to keep an eye on this key level of 918. We do have the Ichimoku now to deal with. Want to see us get back above this 918 and the Ichimoku to start to get back to the squeeze top. Looks like it's a 4-hour squeeze and a 2-hour squeeze. But as you can see, we have a very clear 890 to 940 range that we are in on a 2-hour, 4-hour squeeze. So could easily just stay in this range bouncing around until one end gives up and fires. And before we close it, let's look at Qqq and Spy. Qqq, very similar to NQ, has already fallen below the high from 2 weeks ago. Pre-market here, that zone is kind of a resistance, so want to see the Qs hold 352, the squeeze bottom, to start getting back above 355, 356, this zone, to revisit these squeeze tops at 360. Definitely going to be watching the 355s, 360s today. If it can't hold 352, going to be watching the 350 puts and, probably 348, 345 on the Qs for tomorrow's expiration. On Spy, should look very similar to ES, that we are staying above the highs from 2 weeks ago, that 444. So let that be support and hold us up as we go into today. We have a squeeze bottom down there as well to help support us. We have a squeeze top up at 450 and the daily 21 at 451.3. If you were in the room yesterday, I talked about I wanted to see us get up to that 451.3 before I started shorting Spy. It didn't quite get there, so I actually just shifted my focus over to the Qs, and it kind of provided a little bit better risk reward. But after a decent run up on Spy, back above the mean, now we've been in a fade, and as you can see, these squeezes slowly forming each day and have now all come and stacked on top of each other. So got a nice little tight range here from 444 up to 451. We could easily just bounce around here and have a couple of inside days until one side breaks. Market needs to make up its mind if we're going to try to start rallying back and be bullish, or if we're going to reject the daily means and have some more selling and correction. But we could very easily just stay at the daily means where what we usually call liquidity, while big money figures out what it wants to do and set direction. We will keep our eyes out, use our tools, always look both directions, and use Beast to give us great entries and be a guide. Hope this was helpful for everyone. Good luck today. We will be live in our Discord server. And if you're new to Predicted Trades, feel free to check us out at predictedtrades.com, at Predicted Trades on Twitter. Feel free to send us a message. You can do so on our website if you have any questions. And definitely consider coming to join Predicted Trades. Thanks. Have a good day.